Good day, everyone. I want to continue on my thoughts on Moses and the rod. The rod played a very, very important part in Moses' life. Last week we talked about the rod, God touching the rod. But I want to revisit that rod for a moment of time because there's some things there that is just so valuable for us to learn about this. When God spoke to Moses out of the burning bush, throw the rod down on the ground, and when God touched it, it turned to a serpent. Now, the reason it turned to a serpent is because it was the serpent that showed up in the Garden of Eden to deceive Eve and cause Adam and Eve to fall and fail. And so there's a significant reason there. God could have tested it and turned it into a squirrel, a rabbit, or Shetland pony, or whatever he chose to do. But the serpent was God going to use that later on where we can identify. And many times the serpent is identified as the devil. But here, God touched it, turned it to a serpent, and we'll show you what's going on there concerning that. After Moses had taken his wife and his children, went back to Egypt land to revisit the people of God. And keep in mind, he's been gone 40 years. He has run for his life for over 40 years of time. Now he's returning back to Egypt with his family and the rod of God. We talked about that in our last little broadcast, video broadcast. But when he got back there and he set up an appointment to go before Pharaoh, the president of the country, the king of the country, and he took Aaron with him. And when he got there in front of the Pharaoh of Egypt, then the Pharaoh remarked something, and the rod was cast again on the floor of the palace of the Pharaoh. And when it did, it turned back to a serpent. But then Pharaoh said, well, you got nothing on us. We got people that can do that very same thing. So the Bible said the soothsayers and all that, the magical working people all come in there and throw their rods on the floor, and all their rods turned to a serpent as well. But the difference is Moses' rod, the rod that Aaron had thrown down on the floor, had turned to a serpent, and it ate all the rest of them up. I mean, they never left with the rod. Only the rod that God had touched that day turned to a serpent and took care of all that. What's the significance of that? Here's the reason behind that. Jesus came one time from heaven down to this earth, and he took care of all of the sin issue. And after the rod had eaten all the serpents up, Moses and Aaron was there. They took the rod or the serpent up by the tail, and it turned back to a rod. Now listen to me. Jesus come from heaven down to this earth, took care of all the sin issue. Then he went back to heaven as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. What am I saying? The plan of God unfolded from the beginning of time when God spoke to Adam, and God brought this into fruition for us to know the power, the strength of God. It was that same rod that Moses smote the side of the rock, and water came out of the side of the rock. So I want to encourage you today and understand this. Jesus took care of all the situation, every bit of the situation. Our sin issues can be handled by the blood of Jesus Christ by just confessing with our mouth and believing with our hearts. So you be encouraged today and walk in the favor of God and let God deal with all of your issues.